بهره برداری امن از موبایل و اینترنت، زن، حقوق فردی و اجتماعی، سازوکارهای جلوگیری از نقض حقوق بشر، پویشی در مفهوم دموکراسی، مروری بر پایگیری نهادهای مدنی در ایران، اندیشه‌های نوین از حقوق کارگران، آموزش خبرنگاری، حقوق شهروندی امروز و محیط زیست. توانا، رایگان توانایی ما را به سمت انسان امروزین جهانی متمدن تازه می کند. برای شرکت در این کلاس ها به توانا.org بروید و با جیمیل مستعار ثبت نام کنید. از طریق فیسبوک، توییتر و شبکه یوتیوب می توانید آموزشکده توانا را دنبال کنید. توانا آموزشکده است برای جامعه مدنی ایران.
Basically, Pakistan is a society which has many democratic deficits. Our history has been like that. If we look at the Pakistani textbooks and educational curriculum, perhaps there is not even a single lesson that tells students about what democracy is, how countries are governed, and how citizens can democratically participate in the affairs of their society. So in order to address this deficit, we established Center for Civic Education Pakistan, and we embarked on so many civic education programs so that we can tell our people what democracy is, what is its theoretical underpinning, and how it works in various societies. So that was primarily the motivation that encouraged us to establish this institution. There could be many traits. Leadership, of course, there are few people who say that it is an inborn capability, but modern educational systems and approaches also certify that one can inculcate certain habits, one can polish certain skills, but to become effective, I won't say effective, but to be interconnected with your society, you need to understand that. Secondly, you need to communicate in the idiom which people are able to understand. Thirdly, you have to pick up the issues which are close to people's heart, which they discuss every day in their kitchen, on their dining table. And when you try to address those issues, of course, people will get involved, they will get engaged, and of course, the work will gain some kind of effectiveness. Our goal and objective is very simple. Primarily, we want that 180 million plus Pakistanis, they know how they are governed. They live in 21st century, and Pakistan is signatory to many international protocols. There are many civilizational lessons as well, that how democratically countries could be governed and how people could be given say in the affairs which shape or influence their life. So our objective is to tell people, give them some knowledge, give them some information, offer them some skills, and motivate them and encourage them to effectively and actively participate in all these affairs. Pakistan's political environment, it is a very strange kind of history, spanned over 66 years. Country has at least 4 times oscillated towards military ruler, and then people of Pakistan came forward, and through their resilience and struggle, resistance, they reclaimed democracy. Unfortunately, as of today, the meanings which Pakistanis decipher about democracy are only ritualistic. that they have to go through election, they have to elect their representatives. But in our understanding, democracy is much more than this ritual. It has to uphold constitutionality, rule of law, equal opportunities, fair play, due process, many more things, where governments could be held accountable for what they do, and taxpayers, the voters, the citizens are able to question, they are able to examine, analyze, criticize, offer suggestions, and actively participate in the affairs of their government. Pakistan is a country, even when it reclaimed its democracy, democracy is very elite-centric. It hardly addresses the concerns of the ordinary people. So, through civic education, we motivate and encourage ordinary citizens to be part of the governance processes. Then Pakistan is a divided society. Here many people theologically, on the idiom or context of religion, reject democracy. Then there are people who are not happy the way constitution and institutional design has worked. They think that through that mechanism, certain powerful quarters usurped their natural resources. So there are many more questions, much more complex situation which we need to address. So that in a way gives you a little flavor about Pakistani society. Then it is a society where majority of people are illiterate. Majority of people live in rural areas, and most of the policies, the governance institutions are urban centric. So all these complex realities we have to address in our work, and that makes our work very challenging. Indeed, only through that we can. We also produce information products, knowledge based products, articles, booklets, so that people can understand what government is doing on taxpayers' expense after gaining electoral legitimacy. We call it policy audit. And why we do that, as I said, that majority of the Pakistani society is illiterate. Most of the laws and policies are written in English, and very few people can make sense of them. And then they are written in a very legalistic jargon. So we try to do constitutional literacy in people's idiom, and to do that, we have to monitor what government is doing, what kind of laws they are making, what kind of policies they are making. There are many issues which are related to the electoral history of Pakistan. It was only in 1970 that for the first time people had right of vote on the basis of adult franchise. After that, there were two military interventions when the political system was engineered the way they wanted. Pakistan, therefore, has a troubled history of elections. Many disputed its legitimacy. Over the years, it has become an issue where a lot of influence, lot of money, lot of muscle, and lot of manipulation is there. Now, for the first time in our history, in 2013, we have a little optimism that the rules of the game are changing, and major political parties are there to reform the electoral design of Pakistan. Now we have computerized electoral rolls on the basis of one computerized ID card, one vote. That means there will be no duplication, no dubious voters, And when people will be able to exercise their right to vote in a free environment, where there is a healthy political competition, we hope that things will change. But as that of past, there are many skeletons in the cupboard. Sometimes intelligence agencies tried to manipulate. Sometimes political parties tried to manipulate. Sometimes there were favorite horses of the establishment. Sometimes we had elections on the basis, on non-party basis. So all these problems are there. But I would say Pakistani democracy is very lucky. People of all opinions and shades, religious, social, ethnic, they consider democracy as one way. That's why we have more than 190 political parties representing various communities. But of course, very few are mainstream major political parties with pluralistic idiom and pluralistic composition. So in that way, I won't say our electoral history has been very promising, but we are very much optimistic that this time around things will definitely improve, and that should be a continuous process to make these things much better, involve more technology, involve more people, so their verdict is not stolen by anybody, and they become in charge of their destiny, and through the power of their vote, they vote in certain parties of their choices to power, and if they don't perform, they have the right to vote them out. Lot of challenges, because the tradition of making laws in Pakistan is that most of the laws, even in draft shape, are in English. Secondly, we have as old laws dating back to 1860 or something even older than that, which is a continuation of colonial legacy. Of course, society has evolved, many new developments have happened. We need to make our laws compatible to contemporary realities. There is very little debate and discussion in public sphere when laws are being made. People have very little access to sit even in the visitor galleries of the national parliament or the provincial assemblies. So they come to know about the end product, what law has been made. Of course, it is made by their representatives. Then we have a tradition of legislation through presidential ordinances, or governors have the right to issue ordinances in the provinces. They are more like wisdom of one man or wisdom of the ruling elite, whereas laws should be made after due consultation with the stakeholders. We have yet to evolve this culture, and one day, hopefully, when people will know their rights, they will have their opinions on various issues, they will be able to make meaningful inputs in the legislative processes. Of course, constitution is a social contract between the citizens and the state. Everything, every institution has to flow from the constitution. Even the way political wealth of the nation is distributed, that is determined by the constitution. How institutions will work, who will be legitimate to sit in various institutions, especially the democratic institution, that emanates from the constitution. Of course, there had been challenges in Pakistan when there were no constitutions. We have high mortality rate of our constitutions. We had one in 1956, then we had another one in 1962, then we had in 1973, which was mutilated by military rulers, and now we have a sort of a consensus document which is there. Then Pakistan is signatory to many international instruments like International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights. It also gives citizens of Pakistan a right to be governed democratically through their chosen representatives. This is what the Constitution of Pakistan says. And of course, Constitution is a social contract which also talks about supremacy of law, treating citizens, all citizens, equal before law. So we drive our argument and strength through the fundamental rights chapter of the Constitution, Pakistan's global commitments, especially the covenants, instruments related to human rights, related to dignity of mankind and human beings, and that gives us the argument. But of course, there is a lot to be done to make people realize, or first they should comprehend or understand all these things, and then they are able to reclaim their rights. If you ask me that today everybody knows about it, even the educated people, this is experience or a lesson learned from our work. People are becoming less interested in all these affairs. They have been bogged down by their day-to-day survival battles. They have to earn rates and rents for their families. But of course, we try to promote that if society and country is governed on the basis of this user manual called Constitution, there will be rule of law, there will be adherence to fundamental rights, there will be equality of citizens before law, but it is a long journey. The society which has a history, chaotic history, full of troubles, dominated by military regimes, there to promote these lessons is sometimes a challenge. But we are happy to say that many people, when we have a communicative dialogue with them, they understand and they say that we never knew about that, but maybe a day will come when people will be able to enjoy all the benefits which the umbrella of Constitution and the concepts flowing out of it, like rule of law, equality of citizens, will be a social norm, a reality in Pakistani society. Almost all segments of the society. Of course, we have a chain of civic education programs for students because they are the future. But I'm sad to tell that not all children of my society are lucky to be at schools. Even a child born today, we can't promise that there will be a school for him or her, or he or she will be lucky to be part of the educational process. Although our Constitution recognizes right to education, free and compulsory education, but it is a long way to go. So that's why our programs also target those young people who are out of educational institution. Then we work with universities because only 3 to 4% lucky young people reach higher education. And they are the people who will be passing competitive exam to qualify to be the managers of Pakistani society, to be future teachers, to be future administrators. So we try to pocket certain civic education messages so that when they embark on their practical life, they have this version that they have to respect their fellow citizens and how they have to operationalize the institutional mechanism. Then we engage with political parties as well because they are the key player in the institutional design. Then we also focus on media, especially in a society where literacy barrier is a major hurdle to communicate or even to develop reading habits. So we have Citizens Wire through which we communicate, we use, make use of information communication technologies. Now Pakistan has abundance of electronic media. Of course, plurality and such kind of messages are missing. We are trying to reach ordinary people and multiply our message by the use of media. Supporters, of course, many young people, many policymakers with candid views, futuristic approach, they support our work. We get access to educational institutions only when the authorities allow us. We actively engage with the government to influence public policy. We reflect on various policies. We offer our inputs. Opponents, of course, in our society, democracy, rule of law, constitutionalism are contested notions. There are certain people who say that we are Muslims, we have Quran, and Quran is our constitution. We don't believe in the constitution made by a set of elected people. Then there are people who theologically reject, they call democracy as something Western or alien to their concepts, whereas we often tell them that majority of the Muslims live under democracy. The largest population in Indonesia, then in India, Bangladesh, Pakistan, Malaysia, Turkey, Iran, many. Of course, the question should be whether they live under a good democracy that works for them, or they live under a bad democracy that serves only a small coterie of interest. So we try to anchor our argument in that kind of information and context. So those people who reject democracy, constitutionalism, either on religious basis, or they are victim of the institutional design of Pakistani state. There are certain nationalities which think that the way constitution was designed, the way governance was there in Pakistan, it usurped the resources of the provinces and developed many ordinary people. Basically, there are so many ways. One is direct interaction with the educational institutions. We engage classrooms. The second is we multiply our message by using creatively electronic media and cyberspace. In fact, we are partner with Higher Education Commission of Pakistan, many other educational institutions. We are part of many networks, but unfortunately, the tradition of vibrant networks is missing in Pakistani society. We are more like an individualistic nation. But yes, we do. Networks bring new ideas, new energies, new resources, multiple skills, and we try to make maximum use of that. It is a long-term process. To talk about results in short term, that can only be quantitative, that we were able to reach out how many students, how many educational institutions. But the kind of work we are doing, it merits assessment on qualitative terms. And that qualitative result will come after a few years because the students are in a process. Those who have been into our programs, when they will be coming to practical life, how they conduct themselves, how they demonstrate, whether they still hold those lessons in their mind to be more democratic, to exhibit democratic culture in their work, in their approaches. So we would say it is a long-term process. We are a 10 years old organization. Maybe few results we can see that the kind of issues we picked up, many people are talking about, people approach us. So there is a little change. But again, I would say we are such a huge country and our efforts are only limited. Civic education should be the responsibility of the government so that these messages reach to every citizen, either through educational system or public service broadcast. We are at best trying to demonstrate it is possible, it works, it should be done. But whatsoever limited we were able to do, we can feel that people respect those messages, people do internalize, and sometimes they're quite successful in influencing public policy, doing small things in their community by using these skills. My message for friends in Iran will be that every country has its own specific context. Of course, the beauty of democracy and related concepts in the age of globalization is that you can combine, you can have a very good interface of international and indigenous. Democracy and these solutions are not one size fits all. Every society has its own particular aspects. How you incorporate them, how you address them matters a lot. And of course, to do that, you have to understand the cultural context, religious context, social context, the evolution and development of that society. And especially in societies which has very little tradition of democratic rule, there the work of activists become very difficult. It is much more challenging. But I would say nothing is impossible. New ideas, when you try to experiment them, there will be challenges, but then you pave your ways and you reach out to your people. Because what the civic education is, to make citizens well informed, well equipped with the kind of skills so that they can effectively and actively participate in the affairs of their government and governance, and the end result is the quality of life is improved for the fellow citizens.
بهره برداری امن از موبایل و اینترنت، زن، حقوق فردی و اجتماعی، سازوکارهای جلوگیری از نقض حقوق بشر، پویشی در مفهوم دموکراسی، مروری بر پایگیری نهادهای مدنی در ایران، اندیشه‌های نوین از حقوق کارگران، آموزش خبرنگاری، حقوق شهروندی امروز و محیط زیست. توانا، رایگان توانایی ما را به سمت انسان امروزین جهانی متمدن تازه می کند. برای شرکت در این کلاس ها به توانا.org بروید و با جیمیل مستعار ثبت نام کنید. از طریق فیسبوک، توییتر و شبکه یوتیوب می توانید آموزشکده توانا را دنبال کنید. توانا آموزشکده است برای جامعه مدنی ایران.